Thank you, Liz. Thanks everyone very much for joining today. Good morning or afternoon as is appropriate. Is my sound okay quickly, Liz?
You sound great.
Thank you. Okay, everyone, we are going to talk about the tactics meeting today, which is one of the meetings or components of the incident management system planning P. Okay, so we will start going through the tactics meeting. What we're going to discuss today are why we have it, who should attend and probably should not attend, and what products come out of the tactic meetings for the various attendees and for the purpose of driving tactical operations in your incident response. Okay, we're going to review the planning cycle a little bit, where the tactics meeting fits in the ops cycle, the purpose of it, who should attend, who runs the tactics meeting, what documents and forms are involved in the tactics meeting, and then what information goes into it and comes out of it and what products are generated. Okay, as Liz says, I'm a planning section chief or have been on a couple of veterinary services incident management teams. I have stepped down right now the last few months because of other issues and priorities, but I was on the team for many years. And as a planning chief, I want to talk to you just a tiny moment about meetings. Everybody, I think, has a collective groan when it's time for a meeting, particularly on a fast-paced incidents. And I want to tell you a little bit of my experience that I've learned in running meetings, which the planning section chief runs most of the meetings in the planning cycle for incident management teams. And these, again, are a few little things I have learned to help make meetings less onerous, to make them more productive and more respectful of your attendees' time. Number one, start on time. You know, always start on time. You post your meeting times and the different meetings of the day or the week clearly on in your incident command post or wherever you're working out of, and expect your attendees to come on time and start on time. Number two, always have an agenda. Having an agenda for a meeting is a simple way to bring order to chaos. All these things we're doing is to bring order to our response and to the many things that are going on in a disease response. So having an agenda and stick to it. And these things, again, are part of respecting your attendees' times. Always have someone in charge of the meeting, someone to facilitate and direct the group through the items on the agenda. Always have someone in charge of a meeting as number three. And like I said, in ICS in the planning cycle, with a few exceptions, the person that runs the meeting is usually the planning section chief or working with another member of the commander and general staff. Okay? Only have invited participants attend your meeting. Not everyone should go to every meeting. As an example, for the command and general staff meeting at the start of the day, it needs to be limited to the command and general staff so that you guys can speak candidly to each other and provide your input in an unbiased way to your incident commander and the rest of the team. And having folks who are not on the team in there can dampen that down and make those types of communications not happen. So only have invited participants. Next, make sure that the participants that you have invited know their roles and responsibilities coming into that meeting. If you're early in the event, everyone that comes to the tactic meetings may not know what you expect of them. So go to them prior to the meeting, coach them on the information they need to provide for the group, and help them understand that it's important to stay on topic and not stray into the weeds to keep the meeting on track, okay? And if you have a meeting that has the title briefing in the title of it, be brief. Stay on topic. Again, prepare what you're going to say. Have an idea of what's appropriate and what's needed, okay? But there's always caveats. If your agency administrator shows up, you've got to be flexible and manage that situation. And just another little tip, know who's at your meeting and always recognize any VIP guests or the emergency manager or the county commissioner or the secretary of agriculture. Always know who's in your meeting and give these VIP guests acknowledgement and an opportunity to speak to your group. So enough on the meetings, but I find those little tips very helpful. Okay, as I said earlier, we are going to talk about a particular part of the planning P, the operational period planning cycle. And you can see by the circle on the basic planning P on the left there, we're going to talk about how the incident management team, the command and general staff, work with the agency administrator and the incident commander, and they generate objectives and strategies. And when you prepare for the tactics meeting, you're working with the objectives and the strategies to come up with actual tactics, which will be presented to a key group of the incident management team during the tactics meeting. And this determines everything else that happens around the planning cycle. Okay, so that is where we're going to be on the planning P. And just for fun, I have put an annotated planning P in here, and all the little boxes with arrows down to parts of the P tell you what's going to go on or what should be going on or what's expected to go on during that portion of the planning P. And I know no one can read this, but I want you to know that I have it, and it will be provided to you if you sign on with your email address after the meeting, so you will have this, okay? There's a lot of boxes there, and a lot of things are going on, and I find it's very helpful, particularly, for folks not so familiar with actual incident response and running through the planning P. This is very helpful. Okay. As I said earlier, objectives, strategies, and tactics are how incidents are managed using the Incident Command System, ICS. Agency administrators, incident commanders, often he will invite the incident commander will invite his incident management team to contribute to specifically developing objectives. Then the incident management team and ops and IC develop strategies that they can use to achieve the objectives, and then tactics are developed to address the strategies, and the tactics are the actual boots on the ground activities that will be carried out during the operational period to respond to whatever the incident is, okay? And viewing it in this way, objectives, strategies, and you choose from the strategies and you figure out what tactics will address those strategies, this helps you order how you approach developing objectives and how you develop those objectives into actual tactical activities. This type of discrete steps, these steps, really put order to that process and help you frame it and tackle it. Okay, and this is just a sample objective, and always, I'm sure you guys know this, but objective number 1 is to ensure the safety of your responders during the operational period. Okay, that's always objective number one. Okay, some strategies to accomplish ensuring the safety of responders could be social media monitoring, having security coordinator and specialist on board in your incident management team structure, and then down to having a biosecurity team who makes sure folks that are actually doing tactical work out in the field are properly equipped for whatever the job is that they do, okay? And that they can enter and leave premises safely and not spread the organism or whatever is concerned. And then on down, so we've selected the tactic that we're going to use to meet part of this first objective, and we're going to have social media monitoring conducted by the Public Information Officer and the JIC staff. If they see any concerning posts on social media or any of those kind of platforms, they inform the incident commander and the security coordinator if they're a member of the team, and then they would decide how to mitigate any of that risk and potentially counter or respond to inaccurate or inappropriate posts as needed, again, with the incident commander's oversight. And so this gives you an idea of how you kind of evolve from a general objective. You develop a series of strategies that will help you achieve that, and then you flesh out and select a particular strategy and develop tactical direction on how to exactly achieve it. Okay? Again, this is just an example for you to see how that goes. Okay? Preparing for the tactics meeting, I will tell you that much of the information that I'm presenting to you today comes from ICS I-300, that course. It is a really good review for folks to take if you haven't taken it in a while, and a lot of what we're seeing today is pulled right out of that, plus from the minds of seasoned responders. Okay, so that's a background on this. And you know, I said it's important for people who attend a meeting to be prepared for it. This is getting down into the nuts and bolts of that for the tactics meeting. These are ideas and thoughts and best practices from some of the incident management team members. Ops chiefs, Dr. Robin Corcoran provided some of these to me. You need to have as complete as possible situational awareness about current operations in the field, and understand any types of hazards or challenges or unexpected occurrences that could impact your ability to tactically respond, okay? The section chiefs that participate in the tactic meeting must ensure that they take time to have conversations with each other within the incident management team, with your group and division supervisors or team leaders out in the field to figure out exactly what is going on in the field and if the tactics that you're employing work, or if you could do more with different equipment, or how to best support the objectives and tactics, okay? And the eyes and ears on the ground give you ground truth information about how well the tactics you've selected are working, okay? That's very important. And this touches on another concept of ICS, the concept of formal communication, where you receive work assignments and report work products to one supervisor, and the other is informal communication, which is all the information exchange between team members, and as you know, folks come in after action briefings in the evening. And so it's really important. Information flow and accurate tactical information from the field is very, very important. Okay, and the ops chiefs really need to be in close touch with their field responders. And that, you know, informs, how do you modify your tactics to be safe, to be more effective, to achieve the objectives, okay? So, also, you know, things don't work. You may execute a tactical plan in the field, and, you know, you can't catch chickens in a 100-foot by 100-foot pen very easily without some other equipment, as an example that I have experienced when tactics went awry. So again, you need to have that kind of feedback and be able to justify changes or needed additional equipment or more responders, and all this information helps you do that. Okay? And again, remember, if you have questions, go ahead and get them in the chat. And another thing, we're going to put several things in a little packet for you to get after this, like the agendas I'm going to talk about, the annotated planning P, and other things like that to give you some things to have in your hand that will be useful tools in bringing order to your initial response especially. Okay? The purpose of the tactics meeting, it is simply to review the proposed strategies and tactics developed by the ops section for the next operational period. And remember, all these meetings, everything in the planning P, all the things you're doing in that planning cycle are for the next operational period, not the one you're in right now. You are working on the next operational period on all of the events in the planning P. Just remember that, okay? Determining how the selected strategy or strategies will be accomplished, to work towards the incident objectives. What resources will you need, and do you have the right resources to implement your tactics? Do you have gaps? Do you not have enough people? Do you not have a skid steer and a driver to make a compost pile? Those types of things come out in the tactics meeting, and that's why it's so important to have all the information that you can get ready to make informed decisions about resource needs, resource ordering, safety, okay? So, and this, the tactics meeting is a very clearly delineated important step in the planning cycle, and as such, it has dedicated documents assigned to be completed in it or around it, that document exactly what was done and what decisions were made and what tactical resources and activities you're going to be involved in. The operational planning worksheet, the ICS form 215, that's that big intimidating chart with all the cells on it and all the little captions and everything. I want to tell you guys, what we're trying to present to you today are tools to help you work your tactical response. The Operational Planning Worksheet 215 is really your friend in this. It is just I'm a visual person, and this is an excellent form to visualize your tactical response in detail, what's going to be happening, what you plan happening, what equipment and personnel you need to do those tactical responses, and it identifies resource gaps, okay? It tells you, you need 5 animal health technicians to do this job and you only have 3 available. It clearly shows you that gap, okay? And it gives you information about reporting locations, reporting times, special instructions, and all of this goes into the tactical assignment form, the 204, which actually ends up in the incident action plan, showing responders exactly what their job is. So this is a really important form, and again, incredibly valuable in my mind. It's just a great tool to visualize your tactical response. Okay, remember our number one objective, safety of our responders, okay? Pardon me. The Incident Action Plan Safety Analysis, the ICS Form 215A, looks at the 215 and in discussion with the folks, the ops chief, the logs chief, the safety officer, they look at the tactics that you have planned for the next operational period and specifically identify any hazards that may be associated with the tactical activities, with the place you're going to, even if there's thunderstorms predicted for that day in your tactical response area. You know, it takes all those things into account, and you identify those hazards and identify mitigations for those hazards on this form to help your responders be safe as possible doing the dangerous and tough jobs we have to do out there. Okay? So again, both of these forms, to my mind, really allow you to visualize an incredible amount of essential data associated with your tactical response. Okay? And again, they are the documents assigned to record and document the tactics meeting. Okay? And you know, they're very much your friend if you allow them to work for you. Okay, this is just an example of the 215. This is kind of the upper left corner of a 215, and this is the example out of the I-300 course. So it's an all hazard example. This is your organization. Here, like you could have, I'll show you another form that has different, more animal response appropriate, tactical groups and things. But see, work assignment is going to be remove snow, blah, blah, blah. You need snow plows, and you need 4 snow plows. You have four snow, you require 4 snow plows. You have 4, so you don't have any unmet needs in that. Another thing I want to tell you guys, if you have equipment up here, which we'll see in another, more ag appropriate example, you should put snow plows and operator, sanding trucks and operator, front end loaders and operators, okay? So you need to know that the piece of equipment you have is going to have a qualified operator. So, and again, we have whatever this resource is identified up here, and you see all these places you could put that. How many do you have, which is the required number? No, how many do you require? Then how many you have, and if this number is less than that, you have a need, okay? And see down here in the next box, they need 3 snow plows for this, and they only have 1, so, or they require 3 snow plows, excuse me, and they only have 1, so the needs are 2. And down here at the bottom, you can tally this up, and this lets the logistics section chief see, and the incident commander see exactly the unmet needs that your tactical plans have generated. Okay? Type and kind. This is a term that's used in all hazard FEMA responses, and they have typed many, like fire engines and fire crews or different things, and we have not done that with ag resources yet. So something else. Okay, a little bit different view of the 215. Up here, I said it provides a lot of information. Here you've identified your operational period, which is very important every day. And then over here, where do you want these guys to show up? What time do they need to be there? We start the TB test, we meet in the parking lot of the motel at 5:30 in the morning, and that's all right here. Okay? and here. So again, just a ton of good information can be found on a properly executed 215. So let it work for you. Let it help you. Okay. The operational planning worksheet, here's just a little narrative about it. The 215 does not go into the incident action plan, okay? It's a planning tool. It communicates the decision made during a tactics meeting concerning resource assigned to the resource unit, if you have that stood up. And the resource unit uses a worksheet to complete the resource assignments. Remember I mentioned the 204s? That is the actual assignment of work that goes into the incident action plan, that goes into the hands of your responders to do their jobs. Where do they show up? What special equipment do they need? And usually the operations section chief, and if you have a group supervisor, works with the resource unit leader and even the planning section unit if they don't have a resource unit leader assigned to fill this out. And only the ops chief or only the plans chief or only the resource unit leader should be allowed to touch and change the 215. Okay, this is a tool that is used by the ops section to communicate their plans. And so the ops section chief and even them and the group supervisors working with the planning section execute and fill out the 215. I was on a big incident with wildland fire, and the planning section chief was the one designated to fill out the 215 for their incident management team. She worked with the plans chief. She would slap your hand if someone undesignated to touch that sheet tried to do so. So remember, this is a very important document, and only certain folks who are designated to fill it out, ops chief, group or division supervisors, and plans, the designated person in plans, should get to touch it. Okay? All right. A little more on the planning worksheet. Again, we'll go through this. I just want to reiterate this. It shows work assignments, the kind of resources that you have and need, any specialized equipment or supplies that someone may need, where you report to in the morning, when should you report, and this allows the logistics section chief and working with resources to know what kind of equipment, supplies, personnel need to be ordered for the next operational period so that you can execute this tactic. Okay? Using the 215, planners can determine total resources required, and then this is just going through that require, have, need. Okay, those boxes there on the 215 that we talked about a little bit. You need 25 people to run the snowplow. You require 25 people to run the snowplow, sorry. Then you only have 12, so you need additional resources, 13 folks. Okay, that's just an example. Okay. This is an actual HiPath AI 215, and it's the disease management group, and these describe the supervisor and the work assignments that disease management group who work for Robert, this is what they're going to be doing, and this is a code for some of the premises that we worked on, and they have a group leader, which is sort of overhead, but you need a leader. You're doing composting on this site, so you need a composting subject matter expert. Composting techs, a lot of times these guys were students who were getting experience in assisting the composting SME and being mentored by them. You need veterinary medical officers to do some of the surveillance and other activities and assess progress. These were contractors from this group, these guys. And then air compressors, you needed these to probably generate some cleaning activities, support that. And I would say, plus a technician to make sure it keeps working. And then you've got front end loaders to move things around and assemble the piles and things. And again, I would put that you need to have an operator on there. Generators to run power washers or different things. Got roll-offs for moving probably depopulated birds in. And then again, here you go, the pressure washer to decon things on and off probably of the prim. And I would say probably an operator and then a skid steer. And these little guys are really good at assembling the compost piles and the layers that you need. And I would put on there that you need an operator. Okay. And this is a reporting location, and there you go, and the times, okay? So, it's not a perfect example, but it is a real life example of the 215 being used in a big animal disease response. And, if you have different divisions or groups, you could possibly, if this is really busy, have a different 215 for each one of your divisions or groups if the functions are very different and there are other considerations. Okay? Okay. Moving on, I want us to get through this. We mentioned earlier the other document that records the information presented at the tactics meeting is the Incident Action Plan Safety Analysis. Okay, the 215A. All right, and this is really important. And if you get into a rhythm in an incident and your tactics are pretty well set, sometimes maybe this doesn't change much every day. But again, it can be very dynamic if you're moving into different areas, applying different tactics. You have significant weather changes or climate changes or other variables. So this is a very dynamic form. The purpose of the incident safety analysis is to aid the safety officer in completing an operational risk assessment to prioritize hazards, safety, and health issues, and to develop appropriate controls and mitigations. Okay? This also addresses communications challenges between planning and ops, and you use it to get ready. It's a product, and it allows you to properly execute like the safety plan for your incident action plan for everyone, and it informs the operational section briefing, which is when everyone gets together at the start of the operational section to get their marching orders for the day. And this can be used to provide that group of responders with heads up about what to be concerned about, what to watch for, and how to mitigate any of the hazards they may encounter. Okay. It also allows you to assess and properly equip your responders, your tactical responders, with appropriate PPE or with information about where a storm shelter might be or how far is it, it might be to a hospital or things like that, okay? The 215A is typically prepared by the safety officer, and it really, the most communication about executing it, particularly initially, comes in preparation for and the tactics meeting, okay? And again, this shows the importance of collaboration with your incident management, within your incident management team, and your safety officer is your friend. They are not someone who's trying to derail your tactics. They are there to make sure you can execute the tactics that you have planned in a manner that is safe for your responders. And always, always, always remember, the safety of your responders is your number one objective when you are working an incident, okay? So this is a big part of that and very useful, okay? And then this is just a little blow up of the 215A so you can see the purpose of the safety analysis: identify, prioritize, and seek options to mitigate the hazards and risk at each incident work location and by tactic, and identifies high-risk tactics. And if it seems, after some examination that this tactic may be a little too hazardous or risky, you consider alternatives, okay? And this helps identify the safety implications of all your activities. Very, very important. Okay. Preparation for the tactics meeting, you see that on the planning P. That's not a meeting. Once the incident commander, the agency administrator, has determined the objectives, the ops section chief and his staff and other members of the team usually prepare for the tactics meeting by developing tactics to achieve the strategies and objectives that have been determined, okay? This also is when you determine resources that will be needed or applied during the operational period to achieve your tactical objectives, okay? And remember, the preparing for the tactics meeting is not a meeting. It is a period of time when key preparatory activities occur, and the most important part of that is communicating between the different members of the incident management team and appropriate SMEs, okay? This is when we have to depopulate 6,000 pigs, and this is when you discuss exactly how that will happen, as an example, okay? And you figure out the resources and equipment and personnel you will need, and again, just as an example, and all this communication is so important, okay? Here is an agenda, the tactics meeting agenda, and you can see it there. And again, having an agenda is a critical piece. Having people understand the roles that they're assigned and their responsibilities, very, very important to make this work right and efficiently, and not take too much time, more time than it should. And the attendees, and I used ICS abbreviations here, but it's the operations section chief, the safety officer, the logistics section chief, the planning section chief, and if they're stood up, your resource unit leader, which is in plans, and your situation unit leader, which is in plans. That's not too many folks, you guys. This should be a small group, and that facilitates honest and efficient discussion and resolution of issues. And I will stick to my guns on this. You have an agenda, and you have only invited attendees, okay? And we will provide some agendas and things again after the meeting to folks. Here is a group of recommendations and information from planning section chiefs and safety officers who are currently working and have worked for years on veterinary services incident management teams in animal disease responses. So these are very wise folks, and they are sharing really important information with you. And what we're going to talk about is, what information do the people we talked about, ops, logs, planning, safety, need from the tactics meeting, okay? What do they need? And then what products will these guys make with the information gained during the tactics meeting? Okay? The planning section, and this also encompasses the resource unit leader and the situation unit. what we would expect. We would expect the ops chief and the planning section chief to facilitate the meeting in appropriate roles. The resource unit leader gets information from the tactics meeting to complete the ICS 204s, which are the resource assignments that go in the incident action plan. The situation unit leader gets a grasp on tactical plans and resource allocation for situation reports. And we also expect candid and informed participation from the invited attendees. The products in action, the incident action plan, one of the most important parts of it are the 204s, the resource assignments, and we need to get the information we need to complete those and have them in the incident action plan in time for the next operational period and to get them produced and copied and distributed. Okay. Something that Jamie Wells, plans chief, said was very important as she establishes her team's battle rhythm. You work with ops and you often set up the tactic meeting as the first meeting, and then you arrange all the other meetings around when that happens. You back up or go forward, okay? So that's how important the tactics meeting is in the ops cycle. And again, I'm not going to go through all of these because we will share these pearls of wisdom from our ops or our Command and General Staff folks with you as a handout at the end. But, the ops section chief needs to develop tactics that work to achieve the incident objectives. They should address any operational special emphasis communicated by the incident commander and the agency administrators. The tactics meeting should identify personnel and other resources, either excesses or deficiencies for the next operational period. You should work closely with the safety officer and ensure your response tactics are safe for your responders. Are they financially feasible? Again, there are a lot of different considerations here, and I don't want to bore you with reading a slide, but another important thing is incorporating feedback intelligence from security folks, from your group supervisors out in the field, from the tactical EPIs. All that information needs to be incorporated and shared. And another thing that is really important for you guys that respond, you probably know this, there are constraints on resources, on time, and you use the information gained in the tactics meeting to what is called right size your response. And, is the incident response structure you're creating the best and most efficient structure to meet your objectives and tactical activities, okay? So that's something that needs to be considered all the time and is a part of evaluating incident complexity and is an ongoing, continuous task. Okay, more from the ops section. You need to be making contingency plans. You need to be thinking down the road. This is a simple example. You've got folks that you sent out and they ended up on an infected prim. They cannot be used for a lot of different jobs, and either they're sent back the next operational period to other, infected premises, or they're idled and doing something else that doesn't involve farm contact, as an example. Okay. And like I said, you should be doing contingency planning, thinking about the future, thinking about adjustments, thinking, you've achieved the depopulation and decontamination of a facility. Where do you use those resources next to your best advantage? And again, always be aware. This is where your resource unit leader comes in. The third bullet point there, you got to know when your responders are demobilizing. That's not a big issue in a short event, but when you get into the larger disease responses where you have multiple deployments, you need to know when you're going to lose your, as an example, your group supervisor for the case managers, or when your ops chief demobilizes. Everyone has a date, a due by date, and they are gone on that date, and you need to either replace them or modify your strategy to work without them. Okay. The structures, again, you right size it and make it appropriate, your tactics and your structure, to meet the incident you're responding to. And demobilization, ICS always talks about demobilizing. You need to plan on managing your resource responders and equipment so that you don't have unneeded responders or equipment just sitting around, soaking up hours and time if you don't need them. Okay. Actions. Tactics should be documented on the 215. The objectives and tactics generate detailed resource assignments, which is the 204. Again, it goes in the incident action plan. You should be contingency planning, working with resources. And again, thanks to our ops section chiefs, Dr. Sean Bolton and Robin Corcoran. Moving on. Logs. The logs need to know what resources are going to be needed by operations for the planned tactics. They have to have time to acquire needed resources, and they can determine whether you can use a tactics or not. If they can't supply the resources you need for that, you have to do a contingency plan. Okay. If logs can meet the needs as far as actions and products, all is well, and logs supports the plan and provides what you need. If they can't supply the personnel or equipment or supplies needed, they let operations know, and at that point the ops has two choices. They can try to acquire the needed resources, or they change the tactics. Okay. And another note from our logs chiefs is it's very important that there's an hour or more between tactics and plans to give logs time to determine if they can support the tactics, okay? And this is thanks to Dr. Lynn Creekmore, Green IMT Logs Chief. The safety officers, this is a pretty thorough list that one of our really good safety officers sent to me, and where are they working, what types of animals, how will our responders communicate, what tasks will they perform, what equipment will they use, and so on. Do they need a cooling tent? Do they need water supply? Do they need Gatorade? Do they need meals delivered even? Again, this will be in the Pearls handout that I send to you, and with all the information they gather from the operations section chief reviewing the tactics and working with the logistics chief to know what's supplied, they develop the 215A and develop controls to safeguard responders based on the risks identified, and assign monitors, safety observers, and a lot of different things. Again, this is from Veterinary Services Incident Management Teams, Beth Whittenbrader, and let me go back, Dr. Clem DeSalt. Okay, they're both great folks and really do a good job as safety officers, and we want to thank them. And again, you will have these exhaustive lists um, in the handouts that we can send you, okay? And in conclusion, I just want to tell you that the ICS Planning P is a graphical representation of the sequence and relationships of the meetings, work periods, and briefings that comprise the incident planning cycle for tactical incident response. And remember here, we're talking about tactical response. You know, boots on the ground, doing whatever it is that we have to do to make the disease organism and the disease outbreak go away. Okay? And the tactics meeting is the point of that spear, okay? And all these things we've talked about today are tools to help you organize and execute and develop the tactical response, okay? And these are just tools out of a toolbox for you. Think about them that way. Um, and again, I will tell you that I am an ICS instructor. I really have seen the incident management system work effectively in many situations, and ICS offers you an excellent set of tools to bring order to chaos, which is what you step into when they call you to respond to an incident as an incident management team, whereas when you respond to these complex exercises. All right? I want to wish everyone good luck with the FADSAFE. It's a big challenge and quite a remarkable undertaking with the states involved and the activities that are planned. And I hope this helps you. Here's my contact information. Liz will have contact information for me. And again, we'll put the pearls of wisdom and the other things, the planning P and the agendas and things out via the email that you signed out on with. And now we'll take questions. And again, having them in the chat is the best way. So there we go.
Okay, thanks, Leslie. That was great. So we have a couple good comments thanking you for putting this together. So they're very excited to have this. The first question that I see is, since virtual platforms have been used since the start of COVID-19, have you or any other had positive tactics meetings?
I can tell you I have not done a tactics meeting virtually. I think some folks in Florida on the state side may have practiced this. I would say if you're looking at that, set up your teams or whatever platform is appropriate for your agency and practice. See how it works. Work through it. But that, I have not. I've done some classes that way. So, you can do quite a bit of things virtually. We all know that now.
And the next question is, who completes the 215?
The ops chief working with his group and division supervisors and plans.
Okay.
And,
Lots of
you
great
can,
comments. Go ahead.
one person,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I've seen the ops chief do it. I've seen the group supervisors do it for their group or division soups. If you've got several, and again, like my wildland fire example, the planning section chief, it was her baby. So it's what works best, kind of for the IMT and who's comfortable with taking that on.
Okay, so we do have one comment that says, hi Liz, we're in PR, have had successful tactic meetings throughout COVID for our tick incident.
Very good.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah. And lots of thank yous, very helpful. Thanks for the overview, outstanding presentation as always. And the other question is for Pearls of Wisdom, is the sign in with the email, the registration, or do we need to do that here? As long as you signed in when you clicked on that link to come into the webinar and you've signed in with your first name, last name, and email address, I will be able to send you the information that Leslie is talking about. Lots of thank yous. Any other questions? I don't see any right now, and I'd also like to thank you on behalf of the Vet Services National Training and Exercise Program for the presentation. It was much appreciated by a lot of people that are coming through the chat. And just to remind everybody, if you have any ideas for webinars for the BSNTEP that we can explore for our emergency preparedness community, please feel free to contact us. And you can find all of the webinars on many topics at the video gallery, which is posted on the APHIS USDA Animal Health Training and Development video gallery. And be sure to watch your emails for upcoming webinars that are in the process of being scheduled. And if we don't have any other questions, I think we will conclude today's webinar. Thanks again, Leslie.
Thanks, everyone.